Hey, what is going on, everybody? So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the OEM Tools AirVac Coolant Refiller Tool, and that is going to be part number 24444. So that's four fours. This is not a review or an unboxing. Spoiler alert, you get a vacuum pump in this green box. But what we are going to be doing is upgrading this tool. Now, I will say, for the most part, this is an amazing tool. The build quality is solid. I mean, it is great. So I do highly recommend this tool. There's a few different brands. So this is definitely like, I don't want to call it a clone, but there's just multiple names out there for the same tool. And you can see everything is just, the quality on it is just rock solid. I mean, I like this tool. But the one thing everyone complains about is this gauge. This is like the weakest link on this whole system. And one of the things, going into buying this tool is I just thought, well, I'll just buy a new gauge, no big deal. Swap out the gauge and everything will be nice and dandy. But what I didn't realize is that the threads on this gauge is British standard pipe thread. And what that means is that it's not going to fit. So here's the new gauge that I bought, and I didn't know the size of the gauge, so I bought a 1/4 inch, but it's actually 1/8 inch thread, or 1/8 inch in size. So that's something to keep in mind if you are going to do this upgrade. Now, going back to the threading system, this right here, this fitting is a 1/8 inch, I believe 27 TPI NPT. Now, what comes with the gauge is British standard pipe thread, which is 28 TPI. So it's 1 TPI difference. And you can see right there, that's the thread pitch. And you can see it fits really good. It's a perfect fit. And you can see right there, that's going to be the NPT on the 28. So the gauge is still 28 TPI, but you can see it doesn't fit. You can see right there, there's a little bit of a gap. And even though it's a small gap and you could be tempted to just force feed it in there, I believe every fourth thread, it'll kind of create a gap and you'll lose a seal. You can also see right there that on the NPT fitting, it's going to be, I believe, 0.02 of an inch or something more. So you can see right there that the NPT is a little bit bigger just from the start. So you can see right there that it doesn't fit and it's just too big, unfortunately, which is a bummer because this tool is sold in America and I'm sure it's sold worldwide, but it's just unfortunate that, it doesn't fit. You can see right there that the regular gauge fits. So now I thought, okay, I'll just buy a reducer when I was going to do this upgrade. I'll just buy a reducer, British standard pipe thread to NPT, but that proved to be a big challenge. And the only thing I could find was a brass fitting, a brass reducer. But brass to aluminum is reactive. So, and plus I just like stainless steel a lot better. So I decided to go with a 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch reducer. All right, so while we're at it, we're just going to go ahead and take this apart. In case you're wondering how to disassemble this tool, it's fairly easy. Actually, it's really easy. And the hardest part, I guess, is just recognizing that you have to put some sort of Teflon tape. In this case, they used Loctite 545, I believe. And that's going to be like your thread sealing Loctite. It's not to be confused with like the blue thread locker. This is actually like a air sealing, hydraulic sealing Loctite. Anyway, so now what we have is just like this little spacer that, it's held by a set screw. So nothing serious there. And then this little kind of knob comes off. And now you're into the meat of this tool. And you can see right there, it actually opens up to 1/4 of an inch, which is nice because we're going to be drilling to 1/4 inch. Now I'm going to leave this hose on there because those clamps are really nice and I don't know how to take them off. They're not the like Circ R or Circ R clips, you know, where you can use the pliers. It's kind of a little bit different. So I think they're kind of crimped on. But you can see I'm going to close the valves. And the little lines on the green valves is actually pretty cool. So here is, you know, the reducer that I'm going to use. But going back to those lines on the valves, straight means that it's blocked off or perpendicular to the flow. And straight, so parallel with the flow, means it's open. All right, so here, nothing fancy. We're just going to set the depth. That's what that is right there. Pretty much a 1/2 inch is how far I'm going to just start because those are the original threads for 1/8 inch. This thing is really cool. It's like a nylon vice jaw and it just kind of holds your work without marring. So it's a really cool tool. I highly recommend it. I'll put a link down in the description below for y'all. All right, so we got that set up. We're just going to go ahead and line this up, make sure it's nice and square and ready for drilling. So now we're just going to go ahead and drill this aluminum. And this is the point of no return. This is probably the scariest part of this whole upgrade because once you drill, there's no turning back. You're just going to have to buy a new tool if you mess up. I'll put a link in the description for the drill that you need, so don't worry about that. And now we're just going to go ahead and put a little nice taper on this just so that it's easier to start those threads for when we start tapping. All right, so now we have our NPT tap. And this is a 1/4 inch. And I have it in the drill press or the mill, if you've seen my other videos. And I just use the drill chuck just to make sure that my threads are straight so I don't have crooked threads. All right, so now it's getting pretty tight, so just kind of like using bigger tools to get some more leverage on it and stuff like that. But so far, so good. Look at those threads. All right, so the moment of truth. Does this thread in? And does it thread in nicely? And it looks like it does, so we're off to a good start there. All right, so this is the gauge. Let's see if the gauge fits. Crossing fingers, and it looks like it does. So looks like it was a success. This upgrade was very successful. Now, one thing I want to point out, when you are tapping NPT, there is a taper. So you don't want your threads to go all the way to the bottom. You want a little bit of a gap so that when you tighten them down, the taper tightens on itself, and that's what's going to create the seal. So you want some gap. Now, look at those threads. Let's just take a moment to look at those beautiful threads right there and how awesome they are. So, yeah, that's really nice. If you like those threads, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. All right, so now we have everything back on the table, and we're just going to put everything back together. I've gone ahead and put Teflon tape on everything so that we have a nice airtight seal. And you can see there's all the Teflon tape. So let's go ahead and put this thing back together now. And, you know, let me know in the comments just how your upgrade is going. If you have this tool, tell me what you think. Now, right here, I will say with Teflon tape, you want it to terminate in the direction of the rotation when you're tightening the part so that the Teflon tape lays down on itself and it doesn't want to unravel. I'll make a video on that and explain a little bit more in detail because it is important. It helps with just the sealing and aesthetics of the Teflon tape so it doesn't unravel later. All right, so right there, just give it a nice snug tightening. And right there, we're just going to go ahead and put on our reducer, and we know that it fits. So now we're just going to make sure that it's tight and it has a good seal. And right there, if you want, you can use a full-size wrench. You don't have to use the crescent wrench like I did. You know, or you can put some tape over the body so that you don't leave any kind of marks. But there we go. Look at that. Nice. We have a new gauge on there. And I went with pressure. You don't have to go pressure. You can go full vacuum. But one thing that's nice about pressure is when you clean out this tool with like a blowgun or something, it will introduce some pressure into the system. So just having the gauge be able to handle the pressure is nice. But look at that. You can see the old gauge on the right and the new gauge on the left. And it's just night and day difference. I mean, I would spend the extra money if OEM Tools sold the gauge just like this. All right, so I know I'm going to hear it in the comments if I don't test this gauge. So we're going to hook this thing up to some air and we're going to pressure test it. Now, with the coupler that they provide, it does leak. So I swapped out a coupler already, and I'll show you that later in this video. But pretty much what we're going to do is now we're going to just open up this Venturi, and then we're going to just start on that vacuum process. So right there, we're just going to open up the Venturi, and then now we're going to open up the system, right? Just like that, we're going to open it up at the door, and you can see that we have a vacuum. We're pulling vacuum, okay? So right there, you can see the gauge is in the negative. And so now I sealed it off, and we're just going to go ahead and zoom in on that needle. And I'm going to just sit with y'all, and we're going to look at that needle, because this is going to be in real time to show you that that needle's not moving. Because one cool thing that you can do with this tool is you can actually check your car's coolant system for leaks. So when you do pull a vacuum on your car's coolant system, you can just kind of let it sit for maybe a minute or two and see if that needle goes back to zero. And if it does, then you know you have a leak in your car's coolant system, and you can kind of trace it down and everything. But if you do this upgrade, it's very, very important to make sure that you don't have a leak in the tool, because then you'll be just chasing your tail thinking that you have a leak in your car's coolant system. So you can see that that needle still has not moved. I mean, it is just frozen in time and in place. And that's a good thing. That means that the Teflon tape is doing its job. And I did a great job, with the threading and everything like that. So now I'm gonna break the seal so that you guys don't say that the needle is stuck or anything like that, and that's why it's perfectly, staying still. See, so right there, I took my finger off the tool and it went back to zero. So this tool passes quality control. Here at GarageDynamics, we always make sure our quality control is up to par. All right, so there you have it, folks. This tool is good to go and it's ready for use. And this upgrade, once again, is super simple. That's the upgrade that I made to the Venturi. That's the coupler I swapped out. And it doesn't hiss air, which wasn't an issue anyway. But this tool is now perfect. I mean, it's ready to go. It's ready for service. This gauge is amazing. If OEM Tools is watching this, I hope that they upgrade their gauge. I'm sure people would pay a little bit more for a better gauge. And on that note, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.